Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. This is me, Rima, and today we're going to be doing our first review of a very recently released film. So we're going to try and do this from time to time because obviously we want this channel to be videos that you request that we react to, but we also want to be covering the up and coming content in Indian cinema. Sometimes we won't have access to it because things release differently in the United States versus in India, but I'm going to be doing a movie review today for Zara Hatke Zara Bachke, which came out this Friday. So hopefully this review is current and you see it right in time. And then you can decide if you want to go watch this movie. So this film stars Vicky Kaushal and Soumya Chawla. Vicky Kaushal and Sara Ali Khan. That's her character's name, Soumya Chawla. And they played the role of Kapil Dubey and Soumya Chawla Dubey. So they're a husband and wife, and they're like 2 years married. And I'm going to get into spoilers a little bit later. I'll give you a warning when I get into that. So I saw this movie today, and so this is my fresh take on this film. And for those of you asking why didn't others see it, so again, it just came out. It came out this Friday in India, so you can imagine this is a very quick turnaround. And of course, it's in Hindi, and so a lot of us can go see it, but I'm going to give you my take on it. So coming to the movie itself, it kind of surrounds this middle-class family in India, played by Vicky and Sara, and they're recently married, and they're living in a joint family system. Now, obviously, this is something that's different in America, but I know in India, there are still a lot of families that live together. So you have your mother, your father, and the in-laws, particularly for the girl. If you go live in your in-laws' house, you're living with their relatives. And this is not always an ideal situation, as it happens to be for the couple, because they don't have their own privacy. They don't have a lot of space, right? They're having to share rooms in a very tiny house. And in the process, they decide that maybe if they got divorced due to a technicality, or it's probably cheating the system, so to speak, but because of a loophole, if they got divorced, then Soumya could apply to get a house under a government scheme, and then both of them could move into this beautiful new house together. So they go ahead and get divorced, and then the movie talks about the craziness that ensues when the family comes to learn about it. So let me give you the good, bad, and ugly. So what did I love about the film? Let's start about that. I thought the film was very rooted. I think even though obviously I've been raised here, we have family as an Indian American. We have a lot of family living in Kolkata, living in different parts of India. And I often would hear my parents talk about how my mom and dad, when they got married in India, they would live in a joint family system. So the occasional times that I've visited India as a kid, we would come to see our grandparents, our aunts and uncles, and they would all be living in the same house. Now, of course, in the recent times, and many of you could let me know in the comments, things have become more of the demographic has changed. The attitude or current trends have leaned more towards having nuclear families where people after marriage go live on their own. But still, you have a lot of families that opt to or choose to happily live together. So what I loved about this movie, of course, is the chemistry between Sara Ali Khan and Vicky Kaushal. They make a very young, fresh pair. And I think both of them put in a lot of genuineness and sincerity in their performances. I thought they looked cute together. I thought the banter between each other was nice. And I would say for the first 30 minutes of the movie, at least, I really enjoyed the romance they had in the relationship. It's a simple love story. They both love each other, so it's very nice to see a loving couple being portrayed on screen. They're both on the same page. They get along, and they're in this scheme together to try and get their own house, right? Their own wonderful home. In fact, the movie, when it starts out, it says it's everybody's dream to have their own house. And so it's a very playful interaction relationship they share. So I thought the actors did a fabulous job. It was also nice to see the in-laws, but I think one of the things, so this part of the relationship, the romance between them, the fact that they're very rooted, you can look at each of the scenes, and I think for those of you who live in India, this might be more relatable because you might know people like this, right? The kind of, conversations they have in a couple's home, the kind of interactions they have with their in-laws. So a lot of it is very relatable and very rooted, I would imagine, to the Indian ethos and the kind of family life that a lot of people lead. Having said that, one of the problems I had with the movie was that when the film got into the main crux, the main point of the plot, and this for me, I can speak from experience as an author, so many of you might not know, but I'm a best-selling author of the Ruby Roy comedy mystery book. I'm going to put a link to my book below if you want to check it out, but it was voted as one of the top 10 cozy mysteries of 2022 by Reader's Digest. So I started out as an author, and so I'm going to be giving this review from the author's perspective. So what I feel is problematic, I wouldn't use the word problematic, but I think the weakness of this story is the writing. And I think that's what kind of, unfortunately, doesn't make the film as amazing and as lovable as it could be. I think the film has great potential, or had great potential, but because of plot holes and weaknesses in the writing point, it somewhere kind of does the actors and the film itself a bit of a disservice. I think the supporting cast, the acting, again, was very good. It was very on point. The dialogues in many places were very witty. So for those of you who can understand Hindi, you will be enjoying and laughing at a lot of the things. And I guess the way they characterize Vicky as being a little bit of a miser, not wanting to spend money, so you have a bit of hilarity there as well. Now, I guess what I'm going to do is, so overall, I thought the film was decent if you want to go watch it with the family. So that's another thing I liked about the movie, is that you could take your mom, your relatives, and actually, just like the movie portrays a joint family, go with your entire family to the cinema and watch it. You're going to probably have a good experience. All right. Now I'm going to get into spoiler territory because there are things I want to talk about the film that perhaps could have been improved upon, which would require me to reveal spoilers. All right, so guys, if you haven't seen the film and you want to go check it out, my verdict is definitely it could be a one-time watch. Go with your family, go check it out. Now let's get into spoilers, all right? Everybody ready? Spoilers are coming. 1, 2, 3, go. So, I told you that one of the issues with the film is the fact that there are many plot loopholes. The main problem is with the story is that it hinges on Soumya Chawla and Kapil Dubey. I'm kind of just referencing their names from an article, but Soumya Chawla and Kapil Dubey, the couple here, they want to get a house of their own. And the way they want to do that is by cheating the system, so to speak. So they're going to pretend that they're divorced, and then Soumya would be eligible to get the house because she's now single, quote unquote, and kind of doesn't have income of her own. So she could get the house, and then the couple would get remarried once she gets the house. So that is their master plan. The problem with that is that the film doesn't explore enough, because right within the first 30 minutes, you see this plan manifesting, right? So they want this house desperately. They first go to see one house. That house is way too expensive. And they're like, okay, what can we do? Then they come to learn from Soumya's colleague or coworker that this is something that they could try. And so they try it, but it doesn't seem like they explored any other option. So it's a bit drastic for a couple that's so loving to suddenly overnight be like, let's get divorced so we can kind of get this house by any means possible. So I think as a story, you're not invested because you're like, why do you have to go to that extreme? Why do you have to get divorced? So it felt like overnight they were like, particularly Sara Ali Khan's character is like, no, let's do it. And Vicky Kaushal is like, okay, sure. So that didn't make any sense, because why? Why aren't there other ways you can look into? And it doesn't show us what would prevent them from waiting for another year, what would prevent them from saving, what would prevent them from maybe even looking up other employment opportunities so they can get enough money for the loan or the mortgage so they could buy a house. So that is, first of all, kind of crazy that they just jumped into this without exploring other options. The second thing that's problematic about the story, which makes it difficult for us to care or invest as much in the movie or the rest of the movie, is the fact that they're lying to their families, right? So here, and I think this might have even been revealed in the trailer, Kapil and Soumya are lying to their family, and they don't want their family to know that they're getting divorced. So they want to keep it a secret. Now, what I don't understand is, obviously very early on, again, within the first half an hour, the family comes to find out accidentally that they are actually getting divorced. And so if they discover that you're getting divorced, the couple, instead of telling the family, oh, this is for a scheme, this is because we want to get this house, and so we are lying about it so we can get the house, rather than be honest when they're caught, instead they kind of go into this whole like, oh, I hate you, and you get into this little weird fight scene where basically Soumya and Kapil, in one scene, Soumya is basically massaging his scalp and giving him like a chumpy, as you would say in Hindi, and the next scene, she's like, oh, I hate him, he's a miser. And then like Kapil's auntie or something goes, oh, these chunt girls from Punjab, they are like this. And they're just flat out fighting in a very loud, caricaturish way. And as a viewer, you might be thinking, what is the need for this? Why do you need to fight? Why can't you just tell your family that, hey, this was a scheme, this is what we're doing? And so it doesn't make sense why they chose to continue the lie, because it isn't shown that the family is that close-minded. Like, never in the plot up until that point is it shown that the family would be averse for them to get a new house. In fact, at the end, when you have the revelation, the parents even say, oh my God, thank God you're not getting divorced. Why didn't you just tell us that you wanted to move out? We would have been happy to do so. So again, it doesn't make sense why they chose to lie and really get into like really bare their teeth into, oh, we hate each other and that's why we're getting a divorce. Why lie? Why not tell them you're doing this to get a house in a not so legal way? Maybe they would have supported you. So that was a bit ridiculous. And so after that point, you're like, why is this couple doing this? Do they like drama in their life? Do they want to create more drama? So it was difficult to sympathize with them from that point moving forward. The second thing was, and again, I think the makers tried to really make a beautiful film. So again, there are many of you who might enjoy this. But for me particularly, I thought the humor and the comedy was a bit too loud. Like I said, the first half was nice. The first 30 minutes I really enjoyed. After that, I got a bit tired of the movie. And I'll tell you why. I think when I was growing up here, my mom and, when we would visit India from time to time, we'd go for vacation to see my grandparents. There was this show that I know one of my aunts or one of my cousins really liked. And if you guys remember this show, it was on Z. It was called Hum Panch, or The Five of Us. Do you guys remember this show? So I obviously didn't watch it a lot, but I remember when I would visit India, to see my extended family, that would be playing on TV because it was a very popular show. Now, the thing with Hum Panch, I remember feeling this way even as a very young kid, was that the comedy, it was very funny, but if you look at it now, you might find that comedy a bit too loud. Like people just screaming at each other and making accusations and using weird facial gestures to be like, la, 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 la. So that kind of comedy, in the 90s, maybe there were people who enjoyed that kind of comedy, right? But I think today, especially with more realistic cinema, when you have that type of over-the-top dramatic performance, sometimes there are people who might find it annoying. And unfortunately, in this case, I did not enjoy that over-the-top, shouting, screaming kind of comedy. Let's put it that way. And that could just be me. That could be the fact that I don't enjoy that as much. So that's where it started getting a bit irritating. There was also some characters, like I think they showed the aunt of Vicky Kaushal or Kapil Dubey. She was constantly like the classic, if you see those Ekta Kapoor shows, the classic Saas Bahu types where the sister-in-law or the auntie who's like, the Komolika types, for those of you who watch those shows. And she's like, always like, ooh, she does this because of this. And kind of constantly negative and like a constant like Disney villain in the movie. And I felt that was a bit of a caricature of people. Granted, there are, of course, a lot of politics that go on in an Indian household, and there could be strained relations between different family members and arguments, but she was just so annoying and singularly negative that it was difficult, I think, for me to take that seriously. So that was another thing that I found a little bit irritating. And like I said, I think the fact that the plot was not, the conflict was not built enough. There was no good reason for them to firstly divorce each other and secondly lie to their family, kind of makes you lose interest in the second half. Now, by the end of the movie, what you see is there is a health emergency that occurs with the auntie, Vicky's aunt, who tends to be negative in the film. Everybody rushes to the hospital, and then Samya and Vicky realize that, hey, family is everything. Why did we do this? And they regret it, and they decide not to get the home and decide to just get married again and stay together. Now, I don't know. I think the makers of this film obviously want the social message of saying family is everything. Guys, don't have your selfish desires. Maybe. I don't know. Or maybe this is just the sentiment that some couples will have. End of the day, if you grow up in a joint family system and you love having all your family members with you, this is something that you will miss. This is something that you will regret, right? If you leave. And that is completely understandable. But I do think it's a little bit problematic because there may be families where the dynamic is not as positive. You might have people who are very controlling. And when you're a person in your 30s and 40s and you get married, and I know this is coming from an American perspective, guys, but obviously here, people live on their own once they marry, once they're old enough. And I think even in India, so it wouldn't be fair to stereotype just Americans. I know also people in India who, once they are old enough, they live in their own flat, whether it's in Mumbai, whether it's in Kolkata. I have enough cousins who do that. And they are very close to their families. They just don't live with their families. So I think one of the things I hope people, when they watch this movie, they don't take away is the message is not to forcefully live in a situation that you're not happy with. Everybody's priorities are different. Every couple is different. And so if one couple feels they want to live with their family, they want to be with them, that's okay. And if another couple feels they want to be a bit more independent, a bit more nuclear, a bit more on their own, as long as you are taking care of your parents, as long as you're there for each other, as long as everybody is okay with that arrangement, I think we should not have judgment about it. So I was reading some other reviews as well, and people were saying that this is a little bit problematic. So again, I would just say that maybe for this couple, they realize that they want to be with their family, and all this lies and all the things they did was not worth it. But again, let's not generalize that for every couple because everybody's situation is different. All right, so having said that, what I would say is, again, this movie is great for a one-time watch. This movie is entertaining to watch as a family. There are no scenes I think that you would be uncomfortable with. There are no scenes of intimacy. I know for some people, if you're conservative, that might be an issue for you taking your kids. You're not going to have a problem with this. Having said that, I felt that the comedy in parts got a bit too loud for my taste. So if you're like me, maybe you won't enjoy it. Enjoy parts of it, and it felt like it dragged on for too long. I think this whole situation could have been better off. I mean, I hate to say this, but could have even been better off as a short story. Like you could have made like a 20-minute short story, whole thing, and covered the arc. But again, that comes down to the writing. I do think the actors did a fabulous job. I do think the directors did a great job. I do think people who wrote the dialogue, you would find many places where you'd be smiling or laughing. So it's a feel-good movie. And yeah, I would suggest check it out one time and let me know if you enjoy it. So this was my review of Zara Hatke Zara Bachke. So should you Bachke? I think maybe go Zara Hatke. So in the sense, try it out. If you don't like it, that's fine, but definitely worth a one-time watch. All right, guys, this was my review, and let me know in the comments down below. I will see you next time. Bye.